Hello, everybody. It is Friday, May 16th. I'm here alongside the other K, Josh K, who you guys might know a little bit more from the new series Beyond the Numbers with Chris K. I guess the other K. But we're here. We're going to be talking some baseball for tomorrow, and touch on some of the stuff that's happening tonight. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing well. Don't have any A's exposure, but lots of exposure to these late games. So still has a chance to be a good night for me.
Yeah, same here. I know we were just talking about this. It's tough to not play guys at Coors Field when there is a game there, and I know, tonight with especially with a guy like Eric Stoltz on the mound, it was really tough to fade some of those Rockies bats, and even same going for some of the Padres bats, which are kind of cheap against De La Rosa. But weather might have scared people off of them. We'll see. I certainly didn't fade that game. I still rolled it out there, but because of I thought the slate was kind of weird tonight. I didn't really like the price points I was seeing or the options for the most part. So I kind of toned it down just a little bit tonight to kind of relax and just watch some baseball and not really worry too much about it. But tomorrow, hopefully, ramp things up. I know there's some better options, in my opinion, anyway, that I'll feel a little bit more comfortable with, and we'll see. I guess get your opinion on that as we get going here. You said you used guys in these late games. Is that the Coors Field game for the most part?
Yeah, the chorus game, and I do have a really sneaky Rays stack that I don't think many people are going to be on. Weaver was throwing 84, 83 mile per hour fastballs in the seventh inning after just 90 pitches in the game against the Blue Jays, and he asked to be taken out, which I thought was very eyebrow raising. So I have a Rays stack just in case he's out there throwing meatballs the whole night. And obviously that Angels bullpen is horrendous as well. So
Yeah, right. The Angels game last night. Did you catch the tail end of that thing? You stay awake for it?
no, I did not.
Yeah, I stayed awake for it just because I had a really good night last night, but I was hanging on for some extra money for some of those guys at the top of the Angels order, and that Trout threw in homer made me a little bit extra, so that was nice to see. But anyway, we got a full day of baseball tomorrow, so let's talk a little bit about it. First game on my list is a game at Busch Stadium. It's Aaron Harang and Shelby Miller. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on this game or either of these pitchers.
Well, Shelby Miller has been absolutely atrocious in terms of peripherals. He's been absolutely awful. He's got like a 6 K per nine and a 5 walks per nine, 3.22 ERA. That's coming way up if he continues to pitch the way he's pitching. I like Freddie Freeman. I like Jason Hayward. Uh, don't even mind Ramiro Pena just because he hits left-handed. Shelby Miller only has two pitches: slider, fastball. That changeup is awful, and it's still in the works. So, you know, I'm gonna stay away from Miller, though he could be a great source of strikeouts. But I don't see him giving up fewer than 3 earned runs.
Yeah, man, Shelby Miller. This is one of those young arms that they've kind of brought up here with Waka and Lance Lynn. I guess you throw in that category. Um, it's frustrating to roster him in DFS, and it would be really frustrating for me to be a Cardinals fan and have those guys go out there. Not Waka so much, but Lance Lynn and Shelby Miller. They're super high pitch count guys, like consistently, and that's been Shelby Miller's. You mentioned the walk rate. That's been what's really held him back this year. And I actually got a chance to see him pitch live and watch Pedro Alvarez hit a couple home runs off him this year. But when you fall behind guys, when you have to throw like 8 pitches per at bat and stuff, you can't last long enough into games. And for DFS purposes, regardless of what you're doing, I need you to be able to I need to know before I roster you that you can go 5 innings at least, to give me a chance for a win. And you know what? Last start he went like 5 1/3 against the Pirates, which was a pretty good matchup for him. Not that he pitched bad. I believe he got the win. But I can't have you just go out there and throw 5 1/3. And if you're doing that, hopefully you've got like 10 Ks, but that hasn't been the case. Um, Are there hitters in this game that you like at all? I know this feels like kind of one of those flatlining games for me overall.
Well, I mean, I definitely think if Romero Payne is in the lineup again, that I'm going to get some exposure to him because he'll be super, super cheap, I would assume. And hitting left-handed off a guy like Shelby Miller is always worth throwing in there for a really good value option. For the Matt Adams is continually criminally underpriced, although he really hasn't been the power really hasn't been there for Adams. So we'll see what happens. I agree with you that I'm mostly going to fade this game. I might have, a smidge of harangue action, but I probably not. I mean, it depends on his price. Yeah, I'm not too excited about what this game has to offer. By the way, batters hitting 250, 400, 600 against Shelby Miller with 2 strikes.
Did you say 450?
No, 250, 400, 610. That's the slash.
That's the slash line. Yeah,
with 2 strikes.
Sorry, I heard that second number. I was like, wow, that would be insane. If guys were hitting 450 against him or whatever with 2 strikes, that would be like a complete extreme that obviously wouldn't ever hold true. Throughout.
3 home runs for left-handed batters with 2 strikes off Miller.
Yeah, I'm sure one of those is probably the Pedro. I saw Pedro hit 2 off him. I don't remember the counts on it, but Pedro won me a free grand slam from Denny's that I've yet to cash in on, so I'm gonna have to do that sometime soon because I think it expires. Let's move on to the next game though. I don't want to talk about that one too much because, like you said, it's kind of a flatline game. This is one at Wrigley. This is one I'll know a little bit better. Matt Garza and Edwin Jackson. Give me your initial thoughts on Matt Garza against a hapless Cubs offense.
I mean, we said Tyler Lyons against hapless Cubs offense a while back, and I just don't know what to think anymore with this Cubs team. They're a great source of strikeouts, but there's a lot of sneaky power in this lineup. But that really is mostly prevalent when they're facing left-handed batters or left-handed pitchers. Garza's really struggled this year. A guy like Ryan Kalish comes to mind as a good value option. Maybe a little bit of Anthony Rizzo, some Nate Shearholtz. This game is kind of interesting for me because the Wrigley Field always a good spot for offense, especially for left-handed batters. So yeah, that's where I'm kind of leaning against Garza.
Yeah, I like what you said about Anthony Rizzo. I always loved me some Anthony Rizzo, being a Cubs fan, and I just feel like he's going to start coming into his own as a player. This is a guy that's always been pretty highly touted, and I think you're beginning to see with the plate discipline the way it's been, and just his approach, in the box and what he's doing in certain counts, and even against left-handed guys. I think you're beginning to see the maturation process of a guy that's going to be a really good big leaguer for a while. I know we're concerned about tomorrow, but I still don't mind him in this matchup. It's tough for me to really get on board with too many other Cubs, but I do like what Starlin Castro's still swinging the bat pretty well. He's hitting a lot of line drives, and he's going up there and he's being aggressive and being kind of the hitter that he was prior to last season. This is a guy that he went out and he got you multiple hits a lot. He's not going to hit a lot of home runs. He has like 6 already this year, which is great. But at a shallower shortstop position, granted, Troy Tulowitzki plays tomorrow, so you can kind of scratch that a little bit. But at a shallower shortstop position, it's a guy you can definitely think about rostering. Are there Brewers that you want to use against Edwin Jackson? I mean, this is a team that doesn't really have too many left-handed bats that we might be looking for in a matchup like this.
Well, I mean, I would assume that we're talking about an early slate here. There would be 1, 2, 3. I doubt the Yankees-Pirates game will be on there because it was a postponed game. So maybe like 4 or 5 games I'm looking at here for the early slate. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure I would certainly use some Brewers hitters. That lineup is mostly in a shambles right now with Carlos Gomez out and Braun still coming back kind of slowly. Jackson continues to be underwhelming. Still got kind of good stuff. I mean, Scooter Gennett, and it strikes me as a guy that might find some of my lineups, but and obviously Ryan Braun's always in play. Not too excited about what the Brewers have there, but to be honest, I haven't been able to look too in depth at that one just yet.
Right. I don't even know how in depth you really have to go into this Brewers offense. You mentioned Braun was back. He actually wasn't in the lineup today against Samardzija. Scooter Gennett really is, the only guy that kind of sticks out to me. They don't have a whole lot of left-handed bats, and that's typically what we're looking for. Not that, like Jackson is, like you said, he's not like an overwhelming arm. He's not gonna. He's not going to like just go out and shut everybody down. But yet, on the same note, I really don't expect the Brewers to hit him around as much as maybe others would. I think this is kind of like an offense that he might be able to tame for like that 3-4 earned runs, which is, in daily fantasy, that like if you stacked a team like that wouldn't get anything for you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel about it. I think there's guys you could, it's a plug and play type option with a guy like Scooter Gennett, and Braun obviously is always a very, very solid play. But outside of that, I'm not going to dive too far into that game offensively at all. The next game at Yankee Stadium, should the weather hold up? I'm not sure what it looks like there tomorrow off the top of my head right now. But this could be a game where you could see some fireworks. Any game at Yankee Stadium, really. Edison Volquez and David Phelps. You've got to like some offensive guys here, right?
Oh, absolutely. Ike Davis, Pedro Alvarez, Travis Snyder, if he's in the lineup, Neil Walker. I don't even know. I need to look up what David Phelps throws. It might be a slider. It might be a curveball. But I know Marte hits the curveball very well. So he might be in play. Obviously, the Yankees lefties are all in play. So yeah, I feel like this game has the makings of offensive haven.
Yeah, no, I feel the same exact way. The one guy that I'm like super, super pumped to see in this series is Pedro Alvarez. This is a guy with just like incredible power, absolutely incredible power, and he's getting a huge park shift to Yankee Stadium. Which is a bandbox, and his price, right now, because of like his early season struggles, isn't, kind of where it potentially could be. So I think he makes for like an awesome GPP option because getting to play at a place like that against a righty with the platoon advantage, he could definitely take advantage of from Yankee Stadium. And Andrew McCutchen's an NL MVP. That guy's always kind of in play. But you mentioned Snyder at the top of that lineup. Neil Walker is a guy who's shown some favorable pop this year, and he gets hit from the left side. Those are all guys that I like, and I think some of the Yankees guys are pretty obvious plays. Beltran's on the DL now, but Jacoby, McCann, those guys with that advantage against Edison Volquez, I think are
small sample actually, but left-handers are actually only hitting 143 off of David Phelps so far this season.
Okay. Yeah, the play for me anyway is the Yankee Stadium. That's the play.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's the play for me.
I just thought it's something to throw into the pot. Maybe you don't want to go all that crazy with this game, but I mean he's still David Phelps, and he should maybe at least give up a home run, maybe two. But that's definitely something that has got me thinking a little bit more. The fact that he's having success against left-handers early in the game.
Right. I actually, I didn't pull up the splits for him there. I know Alvarez, obviously, being a lefty, doesn't hit lefties as well. So I typically only ever target him against right-handed guys. I'm not worried about that there tomorrow because if I'm using him, it's typically a GPP play anyway. So I'm not gonna get too carried away with the Roberts splits because I'm rostering Pedro Alvarez because of his ability to hit a home run, and I really like those chances.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. I just thought it was something to
right. No, yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. That's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't go crazy. Like if you have like 10 lineups, don't put him in like 8 lineups expecting a home run for sure.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Let's move on though. Let's get to this next game, which could be a little bit fun to talk about. Bartolo Colon's on the mound at Nationals Park, and I know we were talking in the pre-show. MLB.com has TBD for the pitcher, blank face guy for the Nationals, but a couple different sources I'm seeing it's going to be Gio Gonzalez. I don't know if anybody in the chat has like a confirmed like article that's telling us who it's going to be. Let's just assume it's Gio Gonzalez for the sake of discussion here, because obviously we don't know anything about TBD. But if it's Gio, do you like him against the Mets?
Oh, geez. Kind of, but Gio is one of those guys that I just hate rostering. Kind of like C.J. Wilson. Well, when C.J. Wilson is normally C.J. Wilson. He's been a lot better than he has been in the past this season in terms of metrics. But yeah, I'm not really feeling Gio Gonzalez against this Mets team. They kind of find ways to beat up on left-handed pitching every once in a while, and Chris Young, Juan Lagares, kind of interesting to me tomorrow.
Yeah, man, this is he's one of those guys you mentioned. He's one of those guys that like you cringe when you put him in your lineup.
Exactly.
Because like his last start, like what he did in his last start, he gave up 2 3-run homers to Derek Norris. Like a guy like this is so maddening. But he does have the great K potential, and this is the Mets we're talking about, man. And it's really tough to not want to play him against a team like the Mets. Like the Mets are going to be guys that we're picking on all year long, and I think Gio with that K potential is almost too good to kind of pass up. If we're rostering a guy like Tanner Rourke against the Mets, shouldn't we obviously consider Gio Gonzalez, right? I mean, I don't know. That's for you guys to decide. But anyway, are you going to be picking on Bartolo Colon? I guess that's another question.
I really don't quite think so. I mean, Colon is one of those guys that, when he gets behind an account, he can get shelled. I mean, but his metrics are still kind of there. The Nationals typically struggle against right-handed pitchers, but Colon's not your typical right-handed pitcher because he doesn't have that, that put-away slider that is the reason most right-handed batters will struggle against right-handed pitchers. He's mostly a fastball-only guy. Adam LaRoche, if he was healthy, would be an option for me, but he's obviously not healthy. This team is kind of depleted. They're really picking on Jonathan Neese right now. Tyler Moore, as long as he's better against lefties, but as long as he continues to be this cheap, I think he has to be in consideration here. Denard Span, obviously, a guy that I'd be looking at. But, I don't think the Nationals will be one of my premier plays tomorrow by any stretch.
Yeah, it's tough to roster a whole lot of these guys for me because their lineup is so depleted. You mentioned LaRoche not being there. Bryce Harper's not there. You take 2 of those guys out of the lineup, especially 2 guys that would have a platoon advantage against Cologne tomorrow, and it doesn't look anywhere near as good as it could be. Especially in Zimmerman's gone too. That's another guy. I always just forget about him because he seems to never be healthy.
He's always hurt. So he's just one of those guys like, well, big deal. He's hurt again.
Right. Yeah. That's how I feel about him. But anyway, I think a guy like Jason Worth, who's been swinging the bat pretty well, is a guy to keep on your radar. You mentioned Tyler Moore for real cheap. Outside of those couple guys, Rendon right now is basically only a left-handed play against lefties for me. Outside of those guys, right. Outside of those guys, I can't get on board with using Nationals. It's just this would be like a Bryce Harper for sure type day for me. Should he have been in the lineup and have been hitting in a good spot? No, I don't want to have him down there hitting 7. I don't know what Matt Williams is doing, but this would be a great Bryce Harper day for me. But it kind of sucks, that he's banged up and that seemingly all of baseball is really, really banged up. But anyway, we'll move on to another game because that one's kind of not so fun. Wrapping up this early slate, should the sites break it up, depending on the site you're playing on. Could be a fun game for some offense. Hector Noesi and Jared Kozar at Minute Maid Park. Tell me, you're definitely not using any of those pitchers, right?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't know, just looking at the names, there's no possible. I actually I played like a little bit on some of the smaller sites tonight, and I saw some guys rostering Colin McHugh, and man, I still can't get on board with doing that. And there's some of these Astros guys that have been pretty good, like Dallas Keuchel, but I can't roster them. Like I won't do it.
Keuchel's a totally different story. We can talk about him later if you want, but he's got two pitches right now that he's getting two secondary pitches, his slider and changeup that he's getting a 40% whiff rate on, which is considered the kind of the elite threshold, if you will.
Right. Okay, yeah, but I can't get on board with rostering him, man. Like I can't feel safe with GPP's okay. GPP's okay. I can't feel safe rostering guys like that. So tell me about hitters in this game that you like.
Well, Noesi is kind of been a journeyman. He's not very good at all, really. He's got the curveball, he's got the changeup, he's got the four-seamer. Those are his main pitches. Four-seamers being hit by lefties to the tune of a 375 batting average. 2 home runs, 2 doubles, 2 singles. So a lot of slugging going on that four-seam fastball when guys are falling behind, or when he's falling behind hitters. The changeup is a good pitch for him, though. Righty or lefty's only hitting 192 off the pitch. Jason Castro has to be in play here. Really sneaky guy might be Alex Presley if he's in the lineup. He'll probably be very cheap. It might allow you to pay up for I guess if you want to pay up for Gio Gonzalez, but really there's not much in the way of pitching tomorrow. This early slate's kind of weird, to be honest. Not very much to get excited about in the way of offense, really, or pitching, because I feel like a lot of these games, I don't really feel like any team's going to score more than like 5 or 6 runs tomorrow. But yeah, Presley, VR, and then I guess on the White Sox side, Cozart's a guy that I don't really get excited about targeting against in cash games because he's got that cutter. It's really annoying. You can get guys like Jose Abreu who can go up there that are looking for the home run swing, and all of a sudden they're popping it up to second base because they have the late movement on that pitch. It can be very tough to roster those guys in cash games. But in the GPP, anybody going against a guy with a cutter is always an option, because if that cutter's flat, he's going to get hammered.
Yeah. It's just tough for me. I know the White Sox have been good offensively this season thus far, but this is another one of those lineups that just, man, like
they've been off lately though, so
Right. I mean, outside of Jose Abreu, who's been absolutely phenomenal, and his price will indicate that, so you're gonna have to pay up to use this guy. Outside of that, there's nothing. There's nobody on that team that. I like to use Viciedo against lefties in some spots, but there's not really many guys. I would like to use a guy like Adam Eaton should he have been back at the top of his order, but he's still, banged up. I'm not sure when he's going to be back. Outside of that, kind of no thanks on this game as a whole. I know you mentioned Jason Castro. That's a great guy to roster against righties, and will probably be pretty highly owned tomorrow, I would expect, especially in the early slate. But that does wrap up that early slate. Let's move on to kind of the night games. The first one. Yeah. There are some definitely like some no-brainer plays in the night games, in my opinion. The next game we have here is at Progressive Field. It's the A's and the Indians. Are you expecting the A's to explode on Josh Tomlin, kind of like they did against McAllister tonight?
I mean, the A's are a really good offensive team. They always have a chance to explode. Josh Reddick has been really hot right now. He's a guy that runs very hot / cold. So as long as he continues to be a low price point, he'll be a target for me, and he'll be on my radar. I'm sure I'll have him in 1 or 2 GPP lineups tomorrow against Josh Tomlin. Tom's got a low ERA going right now, but it's not indicative of his overall skill set. Kind of pitching well right now. We'll see how long that lasts, but the A's are always a team that's in play for me as a target. They're just so explosive offensively, especially away from home.
Yeah, dude, the A's are they're always a pretty solid team. Billy Beane puts together these guys, and they go out there and compete, and they really take advantage of like the platoon stuff, and You saw that happen. They just made that deal for Kyle Blanks, which is like completely a platoon move. This guy mashes left-handed pitching. So they do that. They find these guys and they mix and match and put the guys in the best possible chance for them to succeed. And a lot of times that really helps us in DFS because you get guys like John Jaso and Derek Norris who are put in optimal positions. They're put in positions to succeed. We've been taking advantage of that as daily fantasy players this year as a whole, for the most part, I believe. I'm sure Norris and Jaso, when they face respectively lefties and righties, are pretty highly owned because of what they've done this year. So I do like what you said there. I think all those guys, and typically the A's bats really aren't that expensive either. They don't have any.
They walk a lot, and they don't always hit home runs. Unlike tonight, but
right, yeah. I mean, just like their bats as a whole never really like scream super expensive to me, which is a nice thing. It's a luxury to be able to fit some of these guys in there against a guy like Tomlin. Will you have exposure to Scott Kazmir?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, tell me why.
Because he's been very good this year, and having an underwhelming start in his last time out. But without losing those ground balls means that probably just was making some mistake pitches. My big red flag whenever I'm looking at a guy in his last start is whether he's a ground ball pitcher and all of a sudden he started giving up a bunch of fly balls. I don't believe Kazmir did that in his last start, so I'll be looking at him.
Yeah, dude, Kazmir, like the one bad outing he had, well, I don't know. I can't see, I guess, all. Yeah, I'm looking at all the starts here. The one bad outing he had this year was the night that I used him against the Mariners, which kind of like really bummed me out. The thing that I don't like is that he's for the stuff that this guy possesses. I wish he would strike out some more guys. He's got a 9K game, a 7K game, but other than that, you don't see anything past 5.
Well, in the last 3 games, he's gotten total of 28 ground balls. He only went 5 innings against Texas, 6 innings against Seattle. But and Cleveland is a team that'll work the count.
Definitely work the count. I was watching their broadcast tonight. They have 3 guys in the top 8 in the league in pitches per plate appearance.
Wow.
1, 2, and 8. Santana's 1, Swisher's 2, and Yan Gomes is 8. Yeah. So, I mean, if he's pitching efficiently and getting ground balls, like you mentioned, that makes him a little more desirable. But that's tough, dude. To see that many guys that are going to be taking that many pitches, that puts a lot of stress on a pitcher, man. It's so annoying, like when you have guys that go up there and just foul off ball after ball after ball, and like before you know it, they've seen every single pitch you have. You've thrown 9 pitches. And a lot of times the hitter ends up getting the edge there, and you end up giving up a knock or something.
He is 10,500, so I don't believe he will be. If I have him, he'll be in like 1 lineup or 2 lineups. I mean, I'm mostly going to be paying up for Kershaw tomorrow, despite the price point, and then I'll be probably going cheap with my second guy. So yeah.
Right. Okay, this next game's interesting for me at least. The 2 pitchers. It's Homer Bailey and Cole Hamels. Hamels was awesome last start against the Mets. Are you going to be rostering him against a depleted Reds lineup?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't. I don't have an issue with it. He's got 10 strikeouts last game. He got 8 ground balls. The high pitch count is quite frustrating. 133 pitches. Don't really feel that happy picking a guy like Hamels coming off a 133 pitch count game, especially when he is still working his way back from injury just a little bit. This was really his first really solid outing of the season. He struck out 6 guys in the last game, in this game before that against Toronto, and only 1 walk, but to give 10 hits and 5 earned runs and 2 homers. So, I mean, Hamels is a guy that you have to have exposure to because of his upside in GPP and the fact that he's going to be cheaper than a guy like Kershaw, and he's probably the cheapest ace. He actually is the cheapest ace tomorrow, with Burley being 9,100 and Hamels being 9,200 on DraftKings. So, I mean, you have to look at Hamels. I don't think I'll be having too much exposure to him, but yeah, I like him.
Yeah, I think you have to like him. And, I'm not even like really that far down on Homer Bailey. Because there are better options, it's going to be tough for me to fit him in. It is a really good hitter's park still, and they do have a bunch of lefties, declining lefties, albeit, but still, like it just doesn't make sense to really kind of take a risk with a guy like that when there's guys like Clayton Kershaw tomorrow. So let's move on because I know we're running a little bit behind. Rick Porcello and John Lackey at Fenway Park. What's this game mean to you? What's your angle in this game? Hitters, pitchers?
It's interesting because when Lackey is good, that slider is absolutely unhittable. And the Tigers are very right-handed, but they also have had good success against many pitchers this year. Lackey is 10,400. I think I'd rather be throwing out Cole Hamels than Lackey for sure. He's a good enough pitcher to the point where I'm not going to be actively targeting Tigers because of the fact that they're going to be very expensive. If I were to use a Tiger, it would probably be Victor Martinez just because he's just been so good. He's going to be one of the few lefty presences in that lineup. And on the flip side, Rick Porcello, he tweaked this back in his last start. I mean, it's the Red Sox, so sometimes they have a propensity to be quiet. We saw what they laid down and died against Yu Darvish. Granted, it's Yu Darvish, but I mean, I'll definitely have some exposure to David Ortiz tomorrow. Maybe some Grady Sizemore action. Maybe some AJ Pierzynski. So yeah, I mean, I could see a mini Red Sox lefty stack in this one.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I'm not super high on Porcello as a pitcher as a whole, but in the same token, there's just there's not a lot for me to try to pick on. David Ortiz, you mentioned. Mike Karp's been getting at bats down there in like that 6-hole. He's a left-handed guy that could present you with some value. And you mentioned the Lackey thing. Yeah, Vmart. And then they just don't really have any other lefties. Like, does Don Kelly get a start tomorrow? Maybe. That's a guy that maybe could be super, super cheap. I don't know. This is kind of one of those, despite being two better teams, it's kind of just like a grudge match type, type game for me. But the next game is Bud Norris and Danny Duffy at Kauffman Stadium. Man, Danny Duffy, I wish that the kid could work something out and become like a real good pitcher because I really like what he brings to the table. Lefty who can run it up. Are you going to be targeting? You got to be targeting some of those right-handed Orioles against him, right?
I think so. Yeah. Duffy is a guy that has electric stuff. He just has trouble locating and doesn't really seem to last long into games. So that's a big issue. For me, I won't be using Duffy. I mean, maybe one or two spots based on the price point, but overall, I'm not very excited about what he has to bring to the table until he can get that pitch count down and be more consistent in terms of going deeper into games. The Orioles, very right-handed. J.J. Hardy is always a good play against lefties. Nelson Cruz, Adam Jones. Manny Machado still trying to get into the flow of the season, and I don't believe, although he has a hit tonight, I don't believe I'll be having any exposure to him. And Adam Jones is kind of expensive, but J.J. Hardy really, for me, sticks out in this lineup as a guy that I'll be looking at.
Yeah, I love Adam Jones against left-handed guys. His price is starting to creep up a little bit just because he has been playing better. But Nelson Cruz homered last night. He has an RBI single tonight. That's a guy that is definitely in play for me too. And on the Royals side of things, they just they don't hit for any power, and that kind of really takes things out of it takes people out of your lineup because you need the power source, and it's not there at all from anybody. I love Eric Hosmer as a player, but I can't roster him if you can't hit me a home run. And Kauffman Stadium's not doing anything to increase his chances of doing that there tomorrow. But that's about it for that game for me. The next game's interesting because of one of the arms. Roneus Elias, who's been pretty good this year, actually, with a K per 9 of upwards of 8, against Samuel Deduna, who was awesome in the World Baseball Classic for the Dominican Republic. This game doesn't look like a whole lot, but would you be adverse to rostering Elias?
No, I wouldn't. He's got really electric stuff. He can't locate it worth a damn, but when the umpire's on his side and when he's got his mechanics working, he can really ring up some strikeouts. His curveball is pretty gift worthy. It's got some pretty tremendous break to it. So he could absolutely be a great source of strikeouts tomorrow. I'd much rather roster a guy like Elias on FanDuel because that lack of efficiency that I just touched on is really a pain in the ass on a site like DraftKings because he's gonna walk guys, he's gonna give up hits. So if I do own Elias, I'm gonna own him mostly on FanDuel, but I mean I'm sure I'll have one or two lineups that I have Elias on DraftKings despite the risks.
Yeah. I was watching some MLB Network the other day, and I at least I knew Elias was like pitching and he was doing decently well, but I didn't realize he was striking out that many guys. He's got like a 3.5 ERA, which really isn't that bad. I guess I just was behind the eight ball a little bit on catching up and reading on this guy a little bit. And I know the Twins are a team that have kind of bounced some of the pitchers that we've tried to pick on them with. So that's something, I feel like it's not a super safe play, but it's a play that could really find you, could really, really do some damage in a GPP. It could separate you from the field should he go out there and pitch like he's capable of pitching. On the other hand, the other guy in this game here, Samuel Taduno, no thanks. He pitched against the Tigers, I believe, his last time out, and actually wasn't that bad. But just there's not enough there for me, especially when a guy like Clayton Kershaw is on the mound. But there's any hitters in this game?
For the Mariners against Deduno, I like James Jones if he continues to be in the lineup. Michael Saunders. The Mariners stack could be very cheap here against Deduno. And the Twins bullpen in the middle part it's really kind of iffy. You got Swarzak in the middle there, and it's pretty much he's their only reliable option in the middle innings. And he pitched, I know, recently. So I'm not unsure of his availability for tomorrow's game. So if Deduno is inefficient, that could be a pretty high-scoring game if the Mariner bats show up.
Agreed. Let's move on here, though. Mark Burley, has been real good this year against Robbie Ross, who has not been as good. You've got to have Edwin Encarnacion, Jose Bautista on your radar, right?
Absolutely. I love the Blue Jays tomorrow.
Yeah, that's how I feel about this thing too. Any other guys any other of those guys in your Blue Jays lineup? Brett Lawrie's back now. Is that a guy that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like almost all the Blue Jays will be in play tomorrow against a guy like Robbie Ross. Blue Jays typically a lot better at home and against left-handed pitching. Right-handed pitching, but you still got. Melky's better from the left side, but he can still do some nice things from the right side as well. He doesn't really have any big platoon splits there. So yeah, I'm definitely all over the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I feel the same way. They're just, it's not gonna be the same thing outside of the Rogers Center. If this game was at the Rogers Center, you might see me run out their whole entire lineup just because they're so good up there. But yeah, I definitely like what they have. What they had there tomorrow against Robbie Ross, a guy that doesn't threaten me or frighten me in the least bit. It's just a matter of picking the right Blue Jay, in my opinion. You saw Edwin Encarnacion hit the 2 homers the other night. Francisco hit a homer. Just about everybody in the lineup hits a homer, and Joey Bats hits a single. So that's kind of disappointing. It's going to be a matter of picking the right guy or picking all of them and having all of them go off.
Yeah.
But that's about it for that game for me. I don't think I'm going to be on too much of Texas just because they're so disappointing. Like,
they have a propensity to disappear completely, and it's very frustrating because it's always very random.
yeah, agreed. Like tonight should have been a night where Texas could have been okay. Yeah, I guess still have a chance. Yeah, but I mean, 2 hits through 4 against Hutchison. I know Hutchison's got pretty good K stuff, but it's not like he's been a shutdown pitcher this year. It's like I can't figure these guys out because it's a pretty solid lineup, honestly. Beltre, Fielder, like.
Is it though? I mean, it
I
kind of is, but like Fielder has been atrocious. JP and CB is an automatic strikeout, and they're running out Rougned Odor, who stinks, no pun intended. Actually, pun intended, I lied. And Hugh is disastrous against lefties, and he'll still probably start at the top of the lineup because Ron Washington is an idiot and doesn't know any better. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
I feel like he'll probably keep these guys quiet again tomorrow.
Yeah, no,
but I would never run him out. I would never run out Burley.
Right. Oh, exactly. I feel the same way. I mean, just looking at their lineup, I like the 1 through 6 they put out there today. Like, just looking on paper, I like it. But they've been, like you meant, they've been so bad. Like Prince Fielder, dude. What? Like, whatever with him. I'm done with him. I haven't rostered him in a long time because I've been burned by him so many times already this year. The next game we probably don't really have to mention too much about. Just because it is at Coors Field, and it's Robbie Erlin against all those Rockies, and Jordan Lyles against the Padres. Do you have really any thoughts outside of just about every hitter in this game?
I mean, Lyles is an option until he continues to until he has a bad game. I mean, the Padres are absolutely woeful against right-handed pitching, and Lyles has been good. I could absolutely see myself running out a Kershaw and Lyles combination, despite the Coors Field factor, because he's pitched well there before.
Yeah, no. It's just really difficult. Like, I never would ever feel safe really rostering a guy at Coors Field. That's the problem here for me. I have no qualms with Lyles as a pitcher, and if this matchup was at Petco Park, it would be completely different for me.
I mean, he shut down Texas in Coors with 15 ground balls, 5 Ks, 1 walk, 7 hits through 8 innings.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it'd be something sneaky. Is he going to K enough guys for you to use, though?
Maybe not, but I mean, the options, I mean, yeah, I'd probably prefer Homer Bailey to Jordan Lyles, because he has more K potential and similar price point, but I'm not absolutely against using Lyles tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, no, I'd have to agree. The park thing's what sucks, but the matchup's good because the Padres are terrible. And I mentioned there's really the hardest part. I think the hardest part of rostering Rockies in this game is whether or not you pay up for Troy Tulowitzki, which is an argument to be had depending on the site. Depending on your thoughts about other shortstops. But against the soft-tossing lefty, put him in my lineup, man. Unless I really am stretching myself super thin to force him in there, he's going to be in my lineup.
I don't know if I like him again tomorrow. I think it all depends on how the Rockies end up doing tonight against Eric Stoltz. I mean, so far they're very quiet. I mean, And Erlin he's not a bad pitcher. He's got an excellent curveball, an excellent changeup. The only issue is when he has to throw that fastball. It's getting hit around only throws around 90 to 91 miles an hour. But he's got 2 excellent secondary pitches.
Right. Well, is he going to get ahead enough to be able to use those? I don't know the walk numbers on Stoltz. I just know he gets hit. I'm gonna pull it up real quick here. His walks per nine. Yeah. Let's see. Pretty low. Only 1.6. That's good.
Yeah,
That's real good.
this is good control.
Yeah. But I mean, also though, when you're throwing the ball in the zone that much, you tend to get hit around too. It looks like his batting average on balls in play is like 345, and a home run to fly ball ratio of 15.7% this
Well,
year.
there's no question. I think that Erlin will get hit tomorrow. I just don't think that we're looking. I don't think we're looking at a game in which the Rockies score 8 runs. I think this is a game where they probably win maybe like 5-2, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that might be a bold estimation based on kind of what Vegas is going to give us and what others will choose to think there. So we'll keep an eye on that. That could be a nice situation. I just think it's tough for me to not play Tulowitzki when he's at home. The price is obviously tough, and Erland doesn't frighten me really at all. But the next game, man, this seems to be the easy play. Clayton Kershaw is absolutely incredible, and he faces a Diamondbacks lineup that's just not really all that good. Kershaw, your number one guy tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I was expecting you to say that. It's not like I expected anything different because I think he's going to be the number one guy for everybody tomorrow. I guess the question then becomes: is there anything else of importance in this game?
Um, Chase Anderson. I mean, it's got a little bit of deception in his delivery. Um, it's kind of annoying when you're going up against when you're looking at hitters that are going up against a guy like that for the first time.
Wait, who are you? I'm seeing Cole Mentor.
I'm seeing Chase Anderson.
What are you looking at MLB?
Yeah.
Okay, ESPN's giving me
Yeah, I have
ESPN.
Sunday. I don't trust ESPN.
Okay, yeah, I have a couple different. I have ESPN and
They get it from the Diamondbacks. They get it from the individual team websites.
okay. Well, just keep your eye on whoever's going to be there then, because Daily Baseball Data also has Cole Mentor, so I'm not sure.
They pull from ESPN, so.
Right, right. Yeah, just keep your eye on who that's going to be, because that'll change things a little bit there.
Absolutely, it will.
But either way, though, definitely no Diamondbacks hitters for me. I'm blanking. The Dodgers offense would be the only offense I would use in this game because you're not going to be targeting guys against Kershaw. So Dodgers offensively.
Chase Anderson does not throw a slider. That is the bread and butter pitch that Yasiel Puig likes to hit. I don't like Puig tomorrow. I don't like paying up for him, that is. I mean, he could be fine, but, for his price point, not too interested in what he brings to the table against a guy like Chase Anderson who doesn't throw a slider. If Scott Van Slyke's in the lineup again, maybe. It's tough. Against the guy that we don't know too much about, it's hard to really recommend, going, all the way or all in or pick a narrative against a guy like Chase Anderson.
Yeah, I agree. I actually used quite a few Dodgers tonight in my lineup against Miley, and I think it's the same type of thing there. Should it be Anderson? I really like rostering Puig a whole lot. He's kind of expensive, and rightfully so. But I don't know. He seems to always kind of perform when I play him, and I know that's it's not something that's not a good reason to roster a guy. But
it's not. That's not a repeatable skill.
Right. No, I agree. But it's just a fun reason to throw a guy out there. But this next game though, Cesar Ramos against the guy that you mentioned earlier, C.J. Wilson. You targeted the Angels tonight in Jared Weaver. Are you going to target them tomorrow against C.J. Wilson?
You mean the Rays? Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know. Yeah. C.J. Wilson's a much better pitcher than Jared Weaver. I hate Jared Weaver with a passion, and because I think he's terrible, and that he's only a deception guy. And yeah, he understands the aspect of pitching, but his stuff is just horrendously bad. It's just he just survives on voodoo magic or whatever the hell it is. C.J. Wilson is a different type of pitcher, though. giving up significantly less hard hit contact than he did last season. That's really noteworthy for me. Cesar Ramos is absolutely horrendous. I will be targeting Angels right-handed bats in this one. If CJ Cron's in the lineup, you gotta like him. You gotta like Colin Cowgill. You gotta like Howie Kendrick. You gotta like Trout, of course. Pujols. Although I probably am gonna pay for Cron instead of Pujols because he's gonna be cheaper. What's your take?
Yeah, did you see the last game that Ramos threw against the Mariners? Poor guy. Like he didn't pitch well.
He's so bad.
But
he needs to be in the bullpen. He has 2 pitches. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he didn't pitch well, but the defense was absolutely. There were like 4 errors in the first 2 innings too, so that didn't help him out at all. That was kind of rough.
I'm a Rays fan. Don't remind me. It's been bad.
Oh man, yeah, that stinks. Then I guess you would know that a little bit better than me. I'm glad that you mentioned those A's or the Angels righties. Cowgill at the top when he gets a hit in the leadoff spot against the lefties. I really like using that. I used that last night, and it worked out pretty well. He had a couple hits and scored a run there. And Trout finally, maybe last night that 3-run walk-off homer is something that gets him going because he's not been good at all, and he's striking out so much. I'm interested to see what he does tonight against Archer. And, if he can kind of string something together here, that'd be really nice. And, I think he's still a good play against Ramos as it is, but especially if he starts to show some signs of getting back to what we know Mike Trout can be. So that'll be interesting. That's something to really keep your eye on. And I like Howie Kendrick. I like what he's done a lot this year. And second base isn't a spot that has a whole lot of guys to choose from. And I think, when he gets to see a lefty and he gets to hit in that 4 or 5 spot, and the way he's been running the bases this year, and just the way that that team's built, and what he's capable of doing if those guys get on base in front of him, I think it becomes a really solid option and a guy to keep your eye on. But at the same time, his price has kind of creeped up because of, rightfully so, because of what he's done. We have one last game to get to here.
By the way, hold on. No hits currently in this San Diego-Colorado game.
Yeah, through 3, right?
This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's that the old, first game at Coors adage thing, man.
Is that a thing?
I don't know the exact stat, but I know there's a thing about it. I know that's... I don't know. You'd have to dig a little bit deeper because I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know that, it's a conspiracy of sorts, I guess. But anyway, this last game for tomorrow is the 9:05 Eastern start. Tom Kohler and Tim Lincecum, who was actually really good last time. Will you go back to the well with Tim Lincecum, who kind of looked like the old Tim Lincecum?
I think you have to against the Marlins, who have a propensity to strike out a heavy dose. Because he's Tim Lincecum, though, you can't get too excited about what he might do. Obviously, because you have to temper your expectations because of the blow-up potential. I'll have some exposure to him, but the fact that Cole Hamels is $1,000 cheaper against a depleted Reds lineup is a very important fact for me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I thought it was really nice for obviously for Tim Lincecum, but it was really nice to see him kind of to pitch like that last game. Yeah. I got to see him pitch here in Pittsburgh not too long ago, and he just didn't look very good at all. He's thrown things way too close to the plate with 2 strikes, and just wasn't getting swings and misses. Now, last game, if I remember correctly, he had 10 strikeouts, I believe, something like that, pretty close to 10, if not 10. Which is really a really encouraging sign. And that was against the Braves. This is against a Marlins lineup who has been pretty good. They touched up Matt Cain just a little bit last night, kind of quieted down after Cain got going, and they were really good at Dodger Stadium a few nights ago against Mahalam. But yeah, you mentioned it's a younger team, a team that just isn't really it's not really stacked up top to bottom. To do a whole lot of damage. How about Tom Kohler, though? Do you like him at all, or would you be targeting him?
Kohler's a guy that's really interesting because he's a guy that he's got he throws really hard, doesn't have great secondary pitches, and he throws that fastball a ton. Not going to strike many guys out at all. But when his command isn't there, you see, like the last time out against the Dodgers, he can really be bad. But he can always have some sneaky value if his command is there because he's a big pitch to contact guy. Again, he throws hard, around 94, 95 miles an hour. I think if you're a multiple lineup guy, you have to have at least one or two lineups with Kohler on DraftKings because one thing with him is that he's very efficient. So on a site like DraftKings, when his stuff is going, yeah, the strikeouts, like I said, are not going to be there, but those minuses that you get for the hits and the walks, etc., if his stuff is there, those aren't going to be present. So, he's in play for me on DraftKings, not so much on FanDuel.
Yeah, it's tough for me to really roster this guy a whole lot. Especially in this late slate, all day slate, I think there's no chance of me using him.
Yeah.
But even in the late slate where it's Clayton Kershaw, it's a Clayton Kershaw show. Like one pitcher sites in the late slate, you don't even have to think about it. Like it's just, you're like disrespecting baseball if you don't use Clayton Kershaw in a one pitcher site in the late slate. Just to even like hedge yourself, even if you don't want him, he's going to be so highly owned, you might as well just take him. So you don't get burnt, assuming that, like if you faded, for instance, like I played a little bit of the early slate yesterday or Wednesday or whenever it was, whenever Cueto threw the complete game shutout. And, yeah, he was priced up real high against the Padres. But if you decided to fade him and he throws a complete game shutout, you can't win. So that's tough. That's what you face when a guy like Kershaw goes to the bump every single time because he's that good. He's just he's absolutely incredible. And like that last start was kind of tarnished by that 0-2 home run he gave up to Brandon Hicks. But outside of that one pitch there, and a first inning where he gave up some hits, he was awesome. And that's what he's gonna do every single time out.
Case in point, Yu Darvish against the Braves tonight. 26.05 fantasy points on DraftKings through only 5 innings pitched, only 19% owned in the moonshot, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, dude, he's so good. I own him in just about every yearly league because I love to watch you pitch. It's awesome. But anyway, that wraps up everything, guys. If you guys have any questions, you can reach out to us on Twitter or in the chat here real quick in these last minutes. Anything you want to add on here, Josh? Anything at all?
Go Rays tonight.
Yeah, go Rays. I know you said you stacked the Rays there. Looks like Lance Lynn is doing what Lance Lynn usually does, giving up a ton of hits, but actually not getting beat too bad, but not striking out too many guys.
2 strikeouts against the lowly Braves. They give up an RBI single to Tyler frickin' Pasternicki.
Yeah, I saw that. Back up the box. It's rough, dude. Rough. And looks here. I'm just updating my page to kind of give us something here the last bit. Josh Reddick just hit another homer, 2-run homer. The A's, man.
If you if A's stack looks like it's going to win all the money because Coors is not being Coors right now.
Right. Yeah, no, if you have an A's stack, you're...
thing is real.
What?
This first game in Coors thing, it looks real.
Yeah, dude. You'd have to look a little bit into it. It's pretty interesting. But Yu Darvish, man, 5 1/3, 9 strikeouts. Unbelievable.
Alfredo Simon, by the way, has been great as well. I think Homer Bailey has to be definitely thought about more tomorrow. 5 hits allowed only for Simon, 7 2/3, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk.
Yep. Definitely in consideration. But anyway, guys, that wraps up everything for us. Remember, there are no Saturday shows on Lou TV, but we'll be back Sunday, 11 a.m. I believe it'll be Bell and I, maybe Chris, not exactly sure. If you guys have any questions, reach out to us. But that's it. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you around. Take care, guys.